I want to tell you a story about how a restaurant went from being kinda at the bottom of the top to #1 in the entire world. And they didn't do it just by making better food. They did it by completely changing how they treated people. It's a concept called unreasonable hospitality. And believe it or not, it all kicked off at their absolute lowest point.
Okay, so picture this. It's 2010. You've got restaurateur Will Guidara and his partner, Chef Daniel Hum. They're at the world's 50 Best Restaurants Awards, basically the Oscars for food, and they hear their name called first.
And yeah, not first place. They were called first because they were number 50. Dead, last. In a room packed with their idols and competitors, they came in last. And the worst part? Their crushed, totally dejected faces are being broadcast on this massive screen for everyone to see.
But you know what? That moment of just complete public humiliation, it wasn't the end. Not even close. It was actually the beginning. It was the spark they needed to completely rethink everything they were doing.
So, later that night, back at the hotel, it hits them. They realize they've been playing it safe, just taking the best ideas from other amazing restaurants. Sure, their place, 11 Madison Park, was technically excellent, but it wasn't pushing any boundaries. They hadn't really, changed the game.
And that night, that conversation led to a huge epiphany, a whole new philosophy that would take them from number 50 all the way to #1. And it all started with a really simple but powerful distinction.
Guidara has this perfect way of explaining it. He says, service, that's the black and white stuff. It's the transaction, right? Did the right plate get to the right person at the right table? Check. But hospitality, that's where the color comes in. That's the connection. It's all about how you make people feel. So this whole idea led them to create a new motto, a new call to arms. They decided they were going to be unreasonable in how they treated people. They would pour the same creativity and fanatical attention to detail into making people feel good as they did into the food on the plate.
Okay, so having a philosophy is great, but how do you actually do it, right? It's just a bunch of nice words otherwise. Well, to put this into practice every single day, they came up with a really clever system. This is where it gets really smart. They came up with this thing called the 95-5 rule. Basically, 95% of all their resources went into being perfect, disciplined, getting that black and white stuff right. And that discipline created this little pocket of freedom, a 5% slush fund that could be spent on just pure unreasonable magic.
And you won't believe the impact this tiny 5% had. So instead of just making every wine in a pairing pretty good, they'd save a little on each one so they could pour one glass of something absolutely mind-blowing at the end. Or get this. A family from Spain is eating there during a blizzard, and they mention they've never seen snow before. So what does the team do? They use that 5% to get them a car and take them sledding in Central Park right after dinner. How cool is that?
Now, this wasn't just about being nice for the sake of it. No. This was a strategy. This was a deliberate plan to create something way more valuable than just a great meal, a great story.
They actually gave these moments a name, legends. And the real goal wasn't to gift itself. It was giving the guest a story, a memory they would be talking about for the rest of their lives. That was the real magic.
Probably the most famous legend of them all is the hot dog story. So, a server overhears a family of tourists talking, and they're kind of bummed that the one thing they didn't get to do in New York was eat a classic street hot dog. Now, in most places, that's where the story ends, but not here. Because the team was empowered to do something about it, they literally send someone out to a street cart, buy a hot dog, bring it back, and have the kitchen plate it beautifully, and then they serve it as a surprise final course. Think about that. A $2 hot dog. It probably created more buzz, more goodwill, a stronger memory than any $100 dish on the menu. It was never about the money. It was about the gesture. It was about listening. That's what makes a legend. Okay, so right now you're probably thinking, sure, this is awesome for a super high-end restaurant, but what does this have to do with me? Well, Guidara argues this idea is for everyone. And look, the proof is in the pudding. After that disastrous night at number 50, 11 Madison Park started climbing, fast, from 50 to 24, then 10, and 5, then 3, until finally, in 2017, they did it. They were named the #1 restaurant in the entire world.
Guidara's big point here is that we don't really live in a manufacturing economy anymore. We live in a service economy. And that means how you do what you do is just as important as what you do. It doesn't matter if you're in tech or finance or healthcare, this idea of unreasonable hospitality can be your secret weapon.
So, what are the big takeaways for all of us? Listen, really listen for those little opportunities. Give your team the power to actually do something about what they hear. Focus on building relationships, not just making transactions, and create a system for it, like that 95-5 rule, so that this kind of magic becomes part of your company's DNA.
So I'll leave you with this question, the same one this whole story is built on. Forget about what's normal or what's expected. In your job, in your life, what would you do? What could you create if you decided to be just a little bit unreasonable?